Take two. Do you have an update for Cameron Payne on this game, Coach?
Cam's good to go. He had a decent workout yesterday. He was good coming in this morning, so he should be good to go.
Next is going to be Anthony Slater with The Athletic.
Yeah, you mentioned something in post game about how you thought you took too many late clock shots. Do you feel like you guys played too slow in game 3?
In some sense we did. There were times where we walked the ball down the floor off of makes. That was something we talked about yesterday, just getting more organized and getting the ball down the floor.
Cam can obviously help in that, but does Chris do you feel like Chris will be a little bit, zippier tonight, I guess?
I think he will. I think he needed that game to get his feet under him. It's hard to sit for 10 days and then, come back out there and play like you just never left the floor. So I'm sure he'll have a bit more juice tonight.
Next up is going to be Gina Mizell with Suns.com.
Talked about last night, not maybe the physicality or the energy consistently throughout the game.
Yeah.
Maybe what are the things that are going to show you that it's there tonight? Maybe in the first couple of minutes?
Boxing out. That was something that we were stargazing when the shot went up, or we didn't switch properly, and Zubac had 5 offensive boards in the first half. The signature play was when Zubac had the dunk, he missed it, and Terrence Mann is the first guy to the ball, and he beat 3 or 4 of our guys. So that kind of environment is something that we have to improve in.
Next up is Dwayne Rankin with the Arizona Republic, followed by Ramona Shelburne.
Coach, I wanted just to ask about, you mentioned obviously the physicality part, but playing with pace, and Chris talking about wanting to do that. I guess Cameron's been the pace guy, but Chris obviously can do that. So how are you sensing that may look with Cameron obviously now? I feel like he'll be able to go tonight, right?
Yeah, both those guys get the ball down the floor quickly, but I think we have to take advantage of the hit-ahead pass more. A lot of times Book is the recipient of that pass, and he can get the ball down the floor before the defense gets set. That's something that we didn't see as much in game 3, and give them credit. They've had a really good mentality getting back in transition and showing bodies. So it helps to rebound, long rebound, so you can get out and play in that environment. That's who we've been all year. We want to be able to get out and play with pace. Doesn't matter who the lead guard is.
Quick follow, Son Nader questionable. Is he now available to go today?
He's available.
Are you surprised that getting to this point, he's been out for so long? I mean, what could you expect from him, even that he can put him in this kind of environment with being the player?
I expect him to play well. I really do. He's worked his tail off. He got a chance to scrimmage yesterday, and he's a guy that gives you a different element. He's a big, strong, physical guy, can shoot it, get downhill, and he defends. So we don't want to put him in harm's way. We certainly wouldn't play him in a long, long stretch, but if we get a chance to, find a moment for him to get out there and we think it will help, he'll be on the floor.
Next is Ramona Shelburne with ESPN, followed by Dave McMenamin.
Hey, Mom, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, you were talking a couple of games ago. I think Doris Porter was talking about this on the broadcast. She said, Devin thinks he's the best player in the league, right? But we don't hear him talk about that. He doesn't necessarily vocalize that or say it or flex like that. What do you think that is? Is he, with that confidence comes from, but he doesn't necessarily talk about it and how that should on the show?
You can just tell when you've been around the guy every day. And the thing that Devin doesn't do that I've seen from the great ones is he doesn't make excuses when he has a so-called tough night. He doesn't blame anybody else. He looks at himself and comes back in the next day and gets to work. And he doesn't back down from matchups. That's what I've seen from the top guys I've been around. And it's not something he says, but you can just feel it from him. He feels like He's the best or one of the best players on the earth. And that's what I felt from him from day one.
Have you noticed a difference? You said from day one, but have you noticed any difference between him or like last year versus this year, sort of growing into that role and confidence?
I mean, not really. I mean, he's always been, Devin, there's no lack of confidence with Book. But then, his ability to share with Chris was something that I wasn't aware of because we hadn't been in that situation. So he just wants to win. That's what I've seen this year. It doesn't have to be about him. He's been willing to give the ball to Chris and make plays in a different way. And the way that he gives up his body, especially when he has to lay red onto a big, he's one of the rare scorers that are, is that size that will do that. And it doesn't get talked about enough.
Next is Dave McMenamin with ESPN, followed by Melissa Rowland.
Monty, how do you spend the off days? Do you stay in it? You try to remove yourself from it because it's game off day. So it's a lot of basketball.
I mean, I'm probably like most coaches. You just go back to your room and bunker down, film. It's weird this time of the year because there's not a ton of games on to learn from. And so you just end up watching more and more games to see if you can find an edge. And then I can hear in my mind, like Pop, telling me less is more, fill your cup type thing. And so you take a break for 2 minutes and then you get right back at it. So he has 5 rings and I don't. So my family's a huge part of my breaks, when I can get my boys and watch, games with them, or we have family Devo time and we're able to talk about stuff that's a lot more important than basketball. That's a valuable time for me as a father and a husband to be able to talk to my boys about life and listen to their questions. That's especially on the road, there's nothing to do. I'm not going out to eat so my time here has been with my boys in my room or watching film or just kind of, trying to get ready for the next thing that's in front of us.
Next is Melissa Rowland with Fox Sports, followed by Kellen Olson.
Nothing to do on the road in LA?
I mean,
Just saying.
you just don't know me that well.
Hey, Monty, before I ask the question I was going to ask, I know you just said that you hear Pop's voice in your head all the time. Have you been in contact with him about this playoff run, just out of curiosity?
In the beginning, we had a really good conversation about how to approach it. He just told me some things that were really important for me, kind of gave me a bit of a release. Just said, love them up. This is a fun time for you guys. And my job was to give the group confidence. And, we both talked about the nerves, that we all have as coaches. And there's no shame in that. And other than that, I'll get a text message, or if I have a question about something that could be not related to a specific game, but just a certain situation, I know that I can call him or text him and he'll get right back to me just because he understands where I am. But he's always been a resource for me, but it's always more than basketball. He'll check on me just to make sure the kids are okay, or, that kind of thing. So I value those conversations with him.
And then second of all, you likened game 3 to an old school training camp for Chris Paul. How's his body feeling?
I mean, I think he had to go through that game, which I'm hopeful will help him tonight. There's just no way to get that kind of work in. Nobody's practicing this time of the year, so he needed that flush. I didn't like the stretches that I played him, but it could end up helping us tonight, to get that soreness out of your body and get your body recalibrated, I think will help him tonight.
Next is Kellen Olson with Arizona Sports, followed by Mark Medina.
Hey, Monty, in terms of the wing rotation and Cam and Cal and Torrey, how you felt like Torrey's impact in the past few games has been akin to how he's played in the last 6 series, just in terms of rebounding and what he can provide with his strengths the most.
We'll see. I mean, there were a few stretches where his ability to get to the basket has helped us. Game 2, I thought he made a huge play where he fed DA for a dunk. His defense, he's a versatile defender. We need him to make those intangible plays, the offensive rebounding out of space, the ability to guard the ball and keep guys in front. None of us were great last game as far as guarding the ball consistently. Man had a drive from the corner, got a layup. Jackson's been able to get to his spot and make really tough shots. Beverly got to the paint, shot a jump hook, so those are plays that stick out when we're really playing defense on the ball at a high level. Guys don't get to those spots. We try to stop you before you get to the paint. So we need Torrey to help with that cause.
Got time for 3 more. Next is going to be Mark Medina with USA Today, and then Law Murray.
When you're looking at DeAndre Ayton's development, both in terms of his performance and establishing a routine, what do you think were the turning points where he reached another level?
I don't know the turning point. I just know his focus has gone to another level. Like, he was always intentional and really cared. What I'm seeing from him now is a different level of focus, especially from a young big. Like, the old adage is it takes bigs longer. You typically don't see a guy like DeAndre from a big perspective have this kind of focus and impact. So I think the focus has gone up, and I think a lot of that is credit to him and his work with Mark Bryant. They spend a lot of time in the film room, talking on the floor, and then Jay and Chris have had a huge impact on him.
Final 2 questions are Law Murray with The Athletic and Dan Woike.
Monty, saying on DA, you said after game 3 that you really are going to put it on you to get him more involved consistently. It sounds like, you look at the last 2 games, he got off to great starts and then kind of disappeared. Second quarter, he didn't take a shot at all. Like, is that just a consequence of the position that he plays, or is that something where it's like the players know how effective he can be and they just need to consistently get him around?
Yeah, I probably misspoke because when I watched the film, there were chances where he was at the basket and he had the ball, he passed out, and we talked about it, like, go up and dunk that. Like, he's so unselfish. When he catches it in the paint, like, if he doesn't have a direct line to the basket, he's always looking to the corners or the wings. And there are times where he can, be a bit more aggressive in those environments. But I felt like we also can look for him more, especially when they switch and put Zubac on Chris. DA can go in there and seal, but we got to look for him. And we pointed out a couple of those situations yesterday. So I think it was a combination of those things. But for sure, we can try to do our best to, from my perspective, try to find him more in the paint and even his floater. Like, he's a guy that can make that 15-foot shot, and he also can make the floater.
Final question is Dan Woike with the LA Times.
Hey, Mike, to continue on the Ayton train, sort of, he's taking 5 less shots per game this year than he did last year, and that's not everybody. That's not every young guy is willing to do that. Was that ever a conversation that you might shoot less this year, or has that just been sort of natural? And has he ever complained about that or anything like that?
No, I think it's a combination of things. Having Chris, having Jay, and Mikal, his uptick has taken probably shots from a few guys. Cam Johnson, Cam Payne, having more guys that can fill it up. We tend to look at it a bit differently. His value is not just in the shots he makes or takes, it's what he generates for other people too. And I think our guys understand DA in the game helps them get open. So he may have 5 less shots, but we're okay because we think those 5 shots are going to guys that can make, a few shots. So maybe we get 3s off of that as opposed to, a 2 in the paint with DA. That's okay as long as we make the shot.
I said not every 23-year-old number 1 pick might be willing to do
Well,
that.
I just said he's really unselfish. He doesn't talk about that. He makes the right plays, and he cares about winning. If you watch his fist pumps, it's usually for somebody else when they make a play. It says a lot about him. So I'm not quite sure he even worries about that as much. He wants to win and he wants to score too. You know, he knows he can have an impact on the game. I don't know if that helps.
No,
answer the
yeah.
question.
I mean, it just strikes me as like, that's not always easy. for
No.
people To do less in that sense. At this stage of his career.
I was never in that position, so I can't.